we must focus, we should focus, and I know that many of you also focus it, but I am trying to describe what the spread of the leather is and on what are the factors that are responsible for increasing or limiting the spread to the desired extent. The terminology spread is actually scientifically to be termed as yield because it's a quotient of output divided by input. But intentionally, the terminology spread was used in order to give a mental picture of area. Now, our input is wet salted hides and skins, and these are inputs are measured in terms of weight. But when we sell the product, most of the products, except sole, insole, harness, saddlery, most of the other leather products are sold on the basis of area. So the question is, if someone asks that, look, I want to give you an order for chrome cow chestnut waxy upper, 1.4 to 1.6 millimeter thickness of 30,000 square feet. How should you go about it? How much of wet salted hides and skins should I soak? The answer of this lies as a first place of production planning. And in that case, we had to have a relationship between how much 1 kg of raw wet salted hides and skins produces how much square feet of finished leather of various thickness. The two things are very important for the tanneries. So for the costing or the profitability is concerned, one is definitely the spread because we are selling based on area. And the another is the grade. A grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, table run, etc. Now, what the buyers look at when you place the material on the selection table, they first look at the color, texture, feel, softness, and then thickness. And then they try to gauge. What they gauge? They gauge mainly the covering area, or rather the cutting value, the cutting area. What is the loss of cutting value? Based on this cutting value loss, or based on the real usage of the leather, that is the surface without defect, they grade the leather. So my upgradation, my correct formulation depends on the grading. The grade itself is the one important point. And the next important point is the spread, because there I get the value. My sales process depends on the spread of the leather. At the same time, it is also a rather wasteful exercise to produce 50,000 square feet of leather against an order of 20,000 square feet. That is a wasteful exercise. So it is better that if 5 to 10% excess can be made in order to accommodate the rejects, and it will be calculated. Now there is no ready-made standard theory, there is no ready-made standard formulation which is going to speak out that for cow softy upper or say lining leather or say another softy bag leather or some other things, the spread is so much. It has to work out in the tannery. Spread can depend from one tannery to another tannery. Maybe between the two tanneries of the same company, it can depend. So the tannery, the tanners working in the tannery has to find out what is the spread of the leather. Besides this, I am afraid that the costing of the leather is going to be very, very erroneous. So that's why spread is so important. And as I have said that you need a step by step to build the process. The spread has to be built in from step by step process. There is no single panacea that you do this. There is no magic stick that you just wait and the things will be all right. It cannot be done. Spread influences costing, and it defines therefore the commercial sustainability in the business. And so many factors are there to take care of. And as I go on my presentation, you will see that the spread itself can be a KPI, key performance indicator of the quality control, because it is affected by the right quality control of so many process, chemical process, mechanical process, all these things contributes to them. And so therefore, what am I doing? Like a car, you have a sticker, how am I driving? The spread can tell you how are you working, how you are controlling in the tannery. So it is I believe it is a good key performance indicator of the quality control process adopted. I go back to 40 years and 40 to 41 years back. In 1978-79, when I was only 24 years old, under the dynamic leadership of my mentor, Dr. Z. Kotasek, we carried out over years and years together to find out what are the factors on which the spread depends. And today's lecture is principally based on what are our findings, and that I am going to share you, which the work which was done 40 years back. And therefore, I dedicate this lecture in the memory of my mentor, Dr. Z. Kotasek. He actually not only held my hand, but he has shaped me and reshaped me. Today, whatever I am is because of him. He is no more, but his blessings is with me. Now, when you talk about the weight to area conversion, we must also know how we are losing the raw materials in what operations. And you'll be surprised to know, and I was myself very stuck up, very surprised, and with a trembling hand went to to Dr. Kotasek, saying that fleshing we lose about 30% of the raw weight, splitting about 15%, shaving about 5%, buffing 1%, trimming altogether from raw to finished leather trimming 12% of the weight of the hides. So therefore, if you look at the pie chart, you can see that 39% of the raw weight, if we convert it to a raw weight, 39% of the raw weight is there in the finished leather of a lot. And another 15% comes out as a split, of which maybe 8% gives us value. We make a split of low-end product. But can you define a manufacturing industry, whether it is a metallurgy, metal extraction, whether it is a textile, whether it is a jute, or any other things which utilizes so little of raw material and yet make profit? That is a big, hindrance, but still leather is one of the high-ranking export earner of the country. So there are a lot many things that can be done. If we look only on the waste, solid waste. This solid waste, that is fleshings, splitting waste, shaving waste, buffing dust, trimming, etc., are the solid waste, and we spend money to dispose them off from the tannery. But there can be a hidden wealth in it. Now, I am going to remind the small, small kind of a guidance for checking up those machines which are destroying, which are eliminating the raw material in this block. Say the first comes to the fleshing machine. The alignment of the bend knife roller must be proper. Otherwise, you have a over fleshing in some place, under fleshing in some place. Sharpening of the knife while fleshing operation has to be thoroughly controlled, has to be cared after, looked after. Effective removal of the adult flesh that you know, cleaning of the metallic grip roller, lubrication of all moving parts, and pressure adjustment. That is dependent on the thickness of the plate, not on the thickness of the leather shaft. And checking the bearing of the machines. Sometimes the noise of the fleshing machine can be a diagnostic tool to identify where is the loss, where is the breakage, where is the problem, whether it is a breaking, whether it is a bush, whatever it is. An experienced ear can find from the noise. Into the splitting machine. Okay, circular knife must be properly sharpened. That is all that we all know. But most important is the ring roller. Ring roller adjusts the variation of the thickness of the natural wet glue, and therefore the ring roller must be free. Every roller must rotate. There should not be any hindrance in the rotation of the ring roller, and the pressure total has to exert the wanted pressure. Here again, the bearing and other things are very, very important, and everyday checking is necessary. Shaving machine, depending on whether it is a single weight, double weight, or through fit machine, the sharpening knife and its alignment with the knife roller has to be done very correctly. The grinding wheel must not vibrate and must not exert pressure on the knife roller, because if the grinding wheel gives a pressure, you will find a parallel marks on the shaped material, and this marks is going to remain even in the finished leather also. The lubrication has to be done, and the rule of thumb is for slow RPM and heavy load, the grease has to be used, but for high RPM and small load, lubricating oil has to be done. If the alignment is not proper, there will be again uneven thickness, which will result in uneven feel and uneven softness. Buffing machine, one of the great problems with the buffing machine lies that the sandpaper, the emery paper, wrapping has to be done properly so that there is no overlapping edges on the wrapping roller, because that is going to make a mark on the fleshing, on the buffing. The safety guider should not be compromised. I have seen many accidents where the safety guider was raised a bit in order to make it easy for feeding the buffing leather for buffing, and that caused accidents. So this is very dangerous, and one has to be very, very vigilant on this kind of habit to check. The bearing and metal bushers guides has to be checked periodically. Lubrication must not only be done, it must to just lubricate the cup, but at the same time we must see that it is effectively reaching in the area to be lubricated. Now, as I have said that 39% of the leather is used, or the hides is used for leather. And what about the rest of the things, and how can I do it? What is the logic, and how can I increase the return on investment? And this on the today's wastage, one hand, can be a golden promise of tomorrow. And I am just selling you a dream, catering you a dream. I am like a person who is tormented by a ghost. And the dream is, look, this is the percentage of loss, as I have already said, in a raw hide weights in different operations. And what are these materials? These materials are collagen-rich material. These materials, except the fleshings, most of them are very rich with the collagen. It's a natural fiber. It's a natural biological product and unique of its kind. My overambitious plan, dream plan, is based on the Kronberg Denmark model, which you will see later on, that it acts as an industrial ecosystem of various different kinds of industry in the forming an agglomerate such that one industry uses either the mass or the energy of the other industry. The waste of one industry is used as a raw material of the other industry. The waste energy of one industry is used as a as an energy source of other industry. So that is a kind of a mix match of how it can be sustainable and yet profitable, how the symbiosis can be restored. Let us look at the potential of the hidden potential which is going down the drain or going to the road. In terms of per kg of collagen, mind it, not per kg of leather, but per kg of collagen. If you look at the return, in terms of euro is in the y-axis and the the products are in the x-axis. You can see if we make a hydrolyzer, collagen hydrolyzer, by just boiling them up, we can get 80 euro per kg of collagen. We make gelatin, 30 kg, 30 euro per kg. Leather boat, 50. Leather, good quality leather, best quality of leather, 120 euro per kg of collagen. Now, coming last 3-1 is the area where there is a gold mine. Homostatics, 20,000 per kg of collagen. Soluble collagen AR grade, 2 lakhs euro. And my God, injectable collagen, 5 lakhs euro per kg of collagen. I know many of you and most of you has gone to Europe. Have you seen any soap, any shampoo, any cosmetics which doesn't contain a collagen? All of them contain collagen. Where from they get it? These are naturally produced in the skins only, tendon and all these things only. And of course, this is not the business of a tanner, but I am thinking ambitiously, as I've said, like a person tormented by a ghost, that these are the products of the cell biology or cell engineering. If something can be done like a Cronenberg model, and if they can take it out, they can share some of the money back to a tannery and can produce this. My point is a Cronenberg model. Look at the elliptical ellipse at the center of the figure. Arsenal Electric Power Plant is giving his waste calcium sulfate to the Gaipur wallboard. They are taking calcium sulfate and making wallboard. The waste stream of the Arsenal Electrical Power Plant goes to pharmaceutical company. And the sludge of the pharmaceutical company going as a fertilizer. Arsenal's electrical power plant also produces a lot of fly ash. This fly ash goes to cement and road material. There is a company for that, factory for that. On the right hand side, you will see Statoil Petroleum Refinery. The waste fuel gas are given to the arsenic power plant. The refinery produces a lot of sulfur dioxides and sulfur trioxides. These are used by the Crimea sulfuric acid plants to produce sulfuric acids. And the waste stream of the Statoil Petroleum Refinery goes to warm up the fisheries, homes, and the greenhouse gases. So you see, Lake Tisho is giving only one pipeline to Arsenal Electrical Power Plant, and the others are exchanging either a matter, that is the waste of the product of the factory, or the energy. So I can say in terms of ecology, or in terms of thermodynamics, I should say, it's an open kind of ecosystem. It's an open system, both the matters and the energies are exchanged. And at the same time, this is making a viable industrial ecosystem. So I was dreaming that if a biotechnological park adjacent to the tanning cluster to explore the gold from the tanning west. And not only the tannery is going to earn a better revenue and a solution for easy disposal of solid waste, the national income therefore will grow exponentially with the happy symbiosis of two different kind of industries. And you know, even in India today, a 2 milliliter vial of injectable 40,000 rupees each to every patient undergoing plastic surgery in India. So that's the important thing. Now, of course, we may have to change the process. Instead of lime fleshing, we have to go for green fleshing or maybe soap fleshing. Instead of lime splitting, we may have to go for green fleshing because we can get chromium, we can get, collagen in a more natural form than a treated form. Of course, that can be done. Machines are available, technology is available. Well, now let us come back to the spread. There is no single panacea from raw to finishing. The network of spread extends. And surveillance in each and every steps is very important, which has to be done very dedicatedly and religiously. And what I dream as a smart flow management. Now smart is everywhere we can see smart, and smart. Smart leather, smart finish, smart smartphone, smart everything. So the world is becoming smarter and smarter day by day. So step one is the production planning, which comprises means that I must have a right product mix of high spread and low spread products so that my average spread per week in every tannery becomes within the control, within the limit of the ranges that I wish to operate. Step two is the plant process control, where it means I mean the task description very clearly, task monitoring, optimization of production period, and then comes the step three, that is management efficiency, which brings process optimization, task description, atom economy. I always say about atom economy, will come later on, and inventory control. Because inventory is a kind of a thing which a tanner seldom looks into. It is a money that is going to be blocked either in terms, if you have a huge pile of rejected leather in your tannery, money is blocked. If you have an excess production than wanted, money is blocked. If you have a large amount of various chemicals in the store, your money is blocked. Inventory control is a very, very important aspect for sustainability of the tannery operation because it is low profit margin business, and therefore we have to be very cautious. We cannot afford to liquidate the liquid money. This is a very old school concept and still valid. The leather can be destroyed in any operation, and leather needs a real mother's care. Every piece of leather has to be dealt with like a baby, like a newborn baby. That care is necessary, and the workmen and the tanners must be given that kind of a exposure, that kind of a feeling that it requires a feeling, it requires a kind of a consciousness to treat the leather as a mother's care. This is very crucial, but most often ignored. Raw hides and scales plays a big role, some role in spread. Spread depends on the origin of the hides. If the hides, for example, are from North Bihar, you will get maybe different kind of spread. If it is from Rajasthan, you may get a different kind. It is not advisable for me, as a seasoned tanner, to mix all the origin all together to make a plot. No, it's not, it will not give a good result. Better to make the origins, very similar origins or very closer origins to be maybe mixed together, but not all the origins at the same time. Because your process, you are giving chemicals and other things that depends on the type of the raw material that you are handling. The method of curing plays an important part in the spread. The spread decreases in the following order. The highest spread you can get if it is freshly slaughtered from the abattoir straight to the tannery. In some of the Bata African tanneries, I have seen this, that the hides are coming from a cold, on a cold truck, on a refrigerated truck, straight from the abattoir to the tannery. There you can get a better spread because the denaturation of protein has to a least extent. Then comes brine cured, though it is not very popular nowadays. Then comes wet salted, dry salted, and then the flakes. The hides and scales with compact structure, like the imported hides from America or New Zealand, Australia, some other parts, they often shows not a very good spread in terms of spread only. In terms of other compactness of fiber and other things, they're very good, no doubt of it. But I'm talking in terms of spread. Coming to the beam house, soaking is the most neglected part, but most crucial for spread. Here, enzymatic soaking may bring good result. Wrinkles and growth marks reduces spread considerably, and this cannot be recovered if the soaking is improper. Soaking should not only rehydrate, but it must go hydrate inside the interfibrilary space to make them sufficiently soft and supple. And how do you judge whether soaking is correct or not? By the plumpness and the resiliency of the soaked hides and skins in an experienced eye. There is no other gadgets to determine. And coming to the liming beam house, that is liming operation. Proper liming doesn't mean a proper depilation. The removal of the interfibrillary material and denatured globular protein is very important, and that has to be seen. Opening up of the fiber bundles, removal of natural lipids inside by alkaline saponification, treating of fiber bundles, that is the amount of swelling is important. Here again, for splitting the fiber and fiber bundles and removal of natural lipids, etc., enzyme can play a big role if it is done properly and adequately address the return of investment by increase in spread. Beam house operation, I am again saying, I said many times and again repeating, that beam house operation is the crash for leather making. Unfortunately, it is neglected though. Tanning operation. Tanning has a negative role in spread. Chrome 3 tanning, we believe, is a function of cross-linkage, though I have my own doubt. I will explain to you later, because we are birds of same feather. Between the fibers, and it is therefore shrinks the area to a certain extent. The same is true for any other metal tanning. Vegetable tanning also reduces the area considerably. At least you cannot gain in area. So is the case of synthetic tanning. But we can hardly compensate here, and it is not advisable here to compensate. We can compensate this in the wet finishing later on. This is a paper which was published by me in 2012 in the SLTC. Is really cross-linking makes the tanning? That has been my benign question and benign doubt, even after 40 years or 50 years. If it is so, then to which level and to what extent? Many scientific and chemical information, interesting from chemistry point of view, still unknown to us. That is, we do not know the diffusion constant. The first auxiliaries, any auxiliaries goes inside a layer by diffusion control mechanism. And each one has a different diffusion coefficient. We do not know. We do not know even the equilibrium constant of a chemical reaction, whether it is a chrome tanning, whether it is a vegetable tanning, whether it is a dyeing, fat liquoring, etc. When it is a chemical combinations, chemical bonding is there, we do not know the equilibrium concentration, equilibrium constant. And what we control now, we control only the reactivity of collagen or the reactivity of the auxiliary, or sometimes both, in order to ensure that there is penetration and the reaction are controlled side by side. You can say that there are a lot of difficult situation to assess that, because they are not pure chemicals. They are having a lot of varied structure, varied composition, varied wevenness, and therefore there are even chromium, basic chromium sulfate is not a single species, but there are a lot of different species coming up. How to do it with so much of variables? But I can tell you that nowadays it is not a big problem. Believe me, antineoplastic drugs, that is the drugs used for chemotherapy, before it is synthesized, it is simulated in the computer. And it is the rate constant of the DNA and this drug interactions are determined in the computer itself, in the software itself. The synthesis, if it is favorable, if the side geometry is favorable, if the stability is favorable, then they go for synthesis. It's just other way around. So these techniques are available. In 1970s or 80s, late 1970s, when we did the experiment, we didn't have a multivariate plant to handle. We didn't know how to handle multivariate statistical analysis. But nowadays, multivariable are handled most efficiently by statistical software. And I personally used it in 2003 to do my research work on the multivariate statistical analysis. And this is really highly efficient and wonderful things. So this way we can think of getting certain basic elementary gray area. I will give you an example thereafter. Look at the right-hand side of the picture. You can see there a structure, chemical reactions at the structure A, B, and C. A represents a single point attachment of hexachromium with a carboxylate side chain of glutamic acid or aspartic acid in a single polypeptide chain. B represents the same mononuclear pentachromium, but cross-linked between two polypeptide chain of collagen. And C represents the dinucleochrome complex, which is forming a bridge, and they are connected with the carboxylate side chains of aspartic acid and glutamic acid. It is a type C that is considered usually, that is believed usually as a responsible for increase in hydrothermal stability after crude tanning. That means the laser stands boil test as a function how efficiently we can make this binuclear, trinuclear complexes and cross-links them with the different area. But where actually it happens, this is I have my own doubt. Whether it happens in the triple helix, whether it happens in the between the fibers or between the fiber bundles. I have seen in a SEM, the scanning electron microscopy of chrome tan collagen, where you can see the crustration. This crustration is seen in collagen also. But in collagen, we know it is because of the staggering of the collagen triple helix, quarter staggering of the quarter collagen triple helix, the cross striation arises with the alternating dark band and light bands. If the same cross striation arises in chrome collagen, same of chrome collagen, then does the chrome collagen makes any change in the triple helix? I have my own doubts here. Maybe it can interact between one fiber to another fiber, or maybe between one fiber bundle to another fiber bundle, which is a much bigger size than the collagen triple helix. Now coming to that, why I am saying this, I have used Henderson-Hasselbalch equation of biochemistry and tried to figure out how many carboxylate ions are present in terms of percentage at the beginning of chrome tanning and the end of chrome tanning with respect to aspartic acid and glutamic acid. These are the only acidic side chains available in the amino acids in the collagen. Now at bath pH 2.5, we have something like 40% of the side chain, that is the R group of the aspartic acids, are ionized. That is capable to form coordinate with the chrome complex. At the end of pH, around end of the chrome tanning, at pH 3.8, 79% of the aspartic acids are ionized and able to form the ligand of the chromium. Glutamic acid, likewise, at the beginning is only at the beginning at pH 2.5, it's only 3% which is ionized, and at the end at 3.8, it jumps to 54%. So coming to the conclusion here, you can see it's quite impressive. Aspartic acid at the beginning 40% are ionized to coordinate, able to coordinate with the chrome complex. At the end, it increases to 79 at the end of chrome tanning. That is during the basification, goes on and on. Deprotonation of the water aqueous group from collagen goes on and on. And it increases to 79%. 79%. So both ways, the collagen becomes more reactive. The collagen becomes more, the chromium complex, hexachromium complex becomes more reactive, and you gain in 39% for coordination. Glutamic acid, likewise, at the beginning only 3%, and at the end of the chrome tanning is 54%. So it is a gain in 51% almost. It looks quite impressive. But this has another gray side also. How many aspartic acid and glutamic acid amino acid residues are there in type 3 alpha collagen left-handed helix? If you look into this, the Heidemann has published the entire amino acid sequence of type 3 alpha 1 left-handed helix, which consists of 1009 amino acid residues in a polypeptide chain in an alpha helix, out of which aspartic acid has only 7 residues and glutamic acid was only 13 residues in 1009. I do not think it is a bullshit, because with the same amino acid sequences, we have theoretically calculated in 1988 not only the recipe of liming and pickling, but also theoretically predicted the beginning and the end pH of liming and pickling. With the same way, using the same techniques, if we have to believe that the C type of cross-linking between dinuclear chromium complex alone is responsible for increased hydrothermal stability, then stoichiometrically 2 to 3% of BCS theoretically should tend. But that never happens. And therefore, some information or some facts are missing from the fact, from our understanding the chemistry of chrome and collagen interactions. Coming to wet finishing, the rule of thumb is thinner the leather after shaving, higher is the spread. But the thickness of the leather is not a business of the tanner. It is dictated by the buyer. So this is not in the hand of the tanner. What you can do, thicker leather, one hand has a low spread, thinner leather has a higher spread. So what we can do is to face the order from both the sides, a right product mix, so that a right product mix only can ensure us that the spread must be at par in every week. Attempts has to be made not to procure the order only of the thicker leather, but at the same time thicker and thinner combined together, maybe from different sources of buyer. Excessive load of Syntan will reduce the spread of leather. We believe that we can build up anything if we just pump in Syntans into the leather. But Syntan uptake depends on the room that has been created in the liming operation. If we wish to use more Syntan, we should make room for that, more room for that. That means we should go for prolonged liming. Maybe you can use sodium tetrathionate or sodium carbonate in the lime liquor for favoring opening up. My friend, if the leather has no appetite or hunger, how can we force them to eat more and more? They naturally will spit the excess down the drain. That means loss of money with the addition of increasing pollution load. Is going to make a further challenge. Fat liquoring is most crucial operation to influence the spread of the leather. The increase of spread in terms of hydrophilic head of the fat liquor depends on the following decreasing order. Sulfited gives the base spread, sulfonated gives the lesser spread, sulfated still lesser. Again, looking at the alkyl moiety, multilayer insulation increases the lubrication, that is the softness, and the spread both. Fatty acid moiety of the oil should be looked into. Straight chain hydrocarbon fatty acid containing fatty acids increases the spread because multilayer insulation is favorable than the branch chain hydrocarbons. When you talk about this, naturally it goes to synthetic fat liquor. If synthetic fat liquor is made from Marshall, which is mostly a straight chain, is beneficial in this respect. But when you go for sulfur chlorinated synthetic fat liquor, this will have a tendency to undergo elimination reaction inside the leather, in situ. This is because the chain chlorine formation as a side reaction of sulfur chlorination cannot be reduced to zero. And when the elimination reaction sets in, hydrochloric acid is going to be produced, and this makes the tanned collagen matrix little hard and give a very dry feeling on the leather. Sometimes the manufacturers use some scavenging agents like disodium hydrogen phosphate or sodium dihydrogen phosphate in the fat liquor, synthetic fat liquor, as a scavenger molecule, which will take care of liberated HCl and at the same time control the pH because they act as a good buffer also. We need a fat liquor of intermediate emulsion stability for obtaining good spread, because what we need is the oil in water kind of emulsion. When goes by diffusion control inside the collagen fiber, three-dimensionally collagen fiber matrix, it should invert the emulsion pattern from oil in water to water in oil. That is going to make this lubrication between the fiber and fiber bundles, which is a function of softness, better. The infinite stability of the fat liquor is not a good for making leather because it will go in and out. It is not likely to be retained much. Oils having low iodine value often makes a better spread because if you have a higher iodine value, it can go for polymerization and thereby a sticky mass can be generated and which will affect the lubrication between the fiber. It will just oppose the lubrication between the fiber bundles. Reversible setting machine. A setting is important for increasing the spread. It must be adjusted to the pressure. And for that pressure, depending on the thickness of the finish of the leather after fat liquor, the pressure needs to be adjusted. And for that, prior to that, it must be SAM to condition it for better setting out. It so happens that sometimes poor hardness of rubber roller of the setting machine makes unfavorable result in setting. The hardness of rubber roller should vary between 20 to 30 degrees shore hardness. And the rubber rollers of the setting machines, if not replaceable at that point, may be painted with a fresh lime solution during the weekends to increase the hardness. And this doesn't cost value. This only require the consciousness. Now let us go to the dry finishing operation. For spread, it is important to have a critical moisture content of leather between 14 to 16%. Slow but gradual drying is therefore favorable. In order of decreasing spread, the drying operation can be placed as paste drying, which is applicable for only corrected grain leather, because you have a remnant, or you always have a remnant deposition or the film of the paste on the grain side of the leather, which only can be eliminated by snuffing the grain. Therefore, corrected grain leathers can be go for paste drying, not a full grain leather. Then comes toggle drying. Then comes vacuum drying. Then comes drying in drying tunnels with a gradient of temperature and airflow in the reverse direction, counter current direction, and then drying under the shade. In many tanneries, you will find that there are a conveyor with the hangers. You put the leather in the hanger, it travels in the space in the top of the tannery shed, nearly towards the roof, the ceiling of the shed, and then it comes down, you take it out. That also is not, going to improve the spread at all, so far the spread is concerned. But if you can toggle it and then do it, then it's another story. Conditioning before staking is important. So the moisture should not be distributed throughout the area of the leather, but also throughout the cross section. And you must give proper time for this to even out the moisture content. So for the staking is concerned, slow comb staking gives a better spread than the vibrational staking. But because of the advantage, it is advisable to stake the leather in slow comb machine first, followed by vibrational staking machine. Leather need to be toggled so that the gain in spread during staking are not neutralized because of the elasticity of leather. We in Bata in 1978 and 79 didn't find any finishing operation to contribute considerably on spread. Even the Finiflex has no influence on spread. Now, why we are talking on atom economy? The reason is it simply pays back to us, reduces wastage and pays back to us. There are a dozen of green mantras, and the green mantras are minimize waste, atom economy, less hazardous synthesis, safer chemicals, efficient reaction media, minimum energy, renewable resources, reduce derivatives, catalyst for higher efficiency, cradle to grave approach, real-time monitoring and control, and inherent safety. Uh, even in this 12 green dozen of green mantra, you can say this area where we have asterisk marks like use of renewable resources, minimum energy, safer chemicals, minimize waste, inherent safety, real-time monitoring and control can be done easily in the tannery without much of cost. Now, what are the golden rules of atom economy as a brief? The design and use chemicals of lower toxicity. Yes, we should look at the BOD and COD of the chemicals. But at the same time, we must look for the ecotoxicological profile of all of the dairy. In terms of critical lethal 50, LC50 dose, that is a toxicity measurement to the aqueous aqueous system. Ecotoxicological profile has to be checked out, or the supplier has to be said that you provide us ecotoxicological profile. What is the LC50 value of your product? Minimize use of auxiliary substances that do not form a part of the leather. The chemicals that are not retained by the leathers, stop using them. The chemicals that are part and parcel of the leather, that should be used. Avoid unnecessary loading. And nowadays we are replacing solvent-based system by aqueous-based system, etc. Minimize energy consumption. I have a small observation here. Look at the drum of our drum. We have more or less 3 categories of drum. One in the beam house, 3 to 5 RPM. Then in the tanning, 8 to 10 RPM. And then in the finishing, 18 to 20 RPM. What is the RPM of the armature of the motor that drives the transfer the motion to the drum? It is about 900 to 1200 RPM. What are you doing? 900 to 1200 RPM energy is consumed. We are reducing by a series of gear or by a belt to a drum which moves at a RPM of 6 to 10. It's a waste of energy. When we have now a variable frequency motor available, variable frequency energy available, or the motors available, we can easily replace. The initial cost is going to be paid back by number 1, the reduction of carbon footprint, and number 2, by reduction of the electricity bill. Try to minimize water consumption because water do cost, and most importantly, it depletes the underground resources. Our Earth is the only blue planet in the universe, and we won't find water from any other planets. As I have said about the cell engineering, 39% of hide mass is used as a leather and 15% as split, but 46% of the precious biomass is wasted. Today's drainage can surely be tomorrow's hidden treasure. It can be a hidden treasure trove. The entire genesis of leather technology is a conversion of wealth from waste. So the scopes is not ending. Scopes are still there. One has to see how the both ends can be made. How the both ends can be made together. Choose chemical to provide maximum selectivity of function. Product to be discarded immediately, that is, product that are discarded immediately in the process should break down rapidly into benign compounds. We should design a flawless mechanism for in-process control in real time. We must operate with lesser number of chemicals. In a tannery, if we have 20 number of fat liquors, maybe 15 numbers of syntens, maybe some other kind of things, maybe 10 number of different binders. Why do you need all these things? This will reduce the cost of inventory of chemicals. And this dries up the capital liquidity. In each and every tannery, you will see horses are lying with the rejected leathers, blocking the cost of the material, blocking the money due to the inventory of non-moving material. This will create a burden on the finance. Therefore, there should be a regular re-engineering of rejected leathers and to find avenue how it can be re-engineered and be sold out so that the money can be cashed back, can be flown back into the tannery itself. Optimize and further optimize N is the main mantra of survival. We must care for the temperature and the pressure fluctuations and the fire hazards, which mostly takes part in the spray booth and the air duct of the buffing machine. Involve and educate shop floor people. The accidents never happens. The accidents are caused. And there are only two reasons for having accidents in the tannery. Either unduly saving time or unduly saving efforts. The accident takes place. So a watchful eye has to be there to see and tell the people, convince the people that it is not that the company is suffering production, but what is happening if your arms are amputated? It's a loss for you, your family. Why do you try to unduly save time or unduly save efforts? Well, with these things, I have concluded. I want to conclude giving a thanks to the webinar team